Sad to see the Moist boys split up. Psyched to see who their third end up being.
Chirp, thank you, or Chip Chorp, thank you for the 3-month resub. I think we should talk about exactly that. If you guys didn't just hear that resub, he said, sad to see the Moist boys split up, psyched to see who their third ends up being. And I think that's a good topic of conversation. Moist, a team that in the last, 6 months has kind of dominated the scene. They've looked pretty dang good. You're talking in winter, they went second place and lost to a bracket reset. Boo, double M, boo. And then in spring, they won. And then at Worlds, they didn't look their greatest and still went to 7 and lost in the final 2 seconds to Furia. So Moist has been ascending pretty dang heavily. Arguably a top 4, top 3 team at any given point. And now, no longer. If you guys haven't seen the tweet that was put out earlier today, Joyo ended up putting out a tweet. And let me see if I can find it for y'all. But it's no frills, just very straightforward. And some cryptic stuff. I don't know if it's a sign of anything. But Joyo puts out a tweet. And it says, hey, Vatira has decided to move on. Me and Rise will be looking for one for the remainder of the offseason. That came at 10 a.m. this morning, my time. And everybody was like, wait, what? What? Wait, what? Why? Why is this happening? And if you guys don't remember me specifically saying it, I told you guys my personal take as soon as the offseason hit, as soon as we got past the World Championship, and we had a couple times I got back from Texas. People were asking about roster changes and this and that. And I told you there's only 2 rosters that I think are safe, personally. BDS and G2. I think those are the only 2 rosters that I think you can feel comfortable with not making any changes. And there's a particular reason why, and I think you're starting to see, obviously, with these super teams being built and everything else, even though Moist in itself is a super team, I do think that there is a lot of opportunity for teams to take refinement. You're talking Rocket League is now a 10-month season with a 2-month off season. Longer if you get eliminated earlier. We'll talk more about that in detail in a future video, but you're basically trying to find a way to be as engaged and comfortable in an organic situation where the chemistry is a vibe. So despite the highs and lows, because this is a grueling season, you're talking about how much time you're spending with these people over the course of the next 10 months. And yeah, you can make 2 changes a year with the trade window if it stays the same, but you're talking a trade window that's only 2 weeks long with the potential of like trying to have to make adjustments, and you're completely botching your next split. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into it. So you want to make sure that going into the next season, if these circuit things are going to be happening, you're going to be traveling a lot, you're going to these majors, all that kind of stuff. I want a team that I can vibe with, one that I feel comfortable with. And we've seen this happen before. This is not the first time that a French player or a player has left or been removed from a team because the French Inquisition needs to happen. And it's very likely that that is going to happen again, with Vatira going to a full French roster, or a roster full of people that can speak French, which leads me to believe the potential of what may happen with Moist. And I think that's a fun conversation we can have openly here with chat about what may or may not be happening, or what may occur when it comes to the replacement for the Moist team. So a couple things to consider, and we're going to try to take a backtrack on this and talk about through the process. So Joyo, Vatira, and Rise are having a conversation. Vatira decides to bring up, and again, this is speculation, I don't know the full details, I don't know exactly what conversations were when it comes to that roster, but if I had to speculate, Vatira says we baguette, and then that translates into, hey guys, it's been a good run, I would like to go and try out something else. I like being able to speak French with other French speaking players. That's what I want to go do. I appreciate the opportunity, everything's been great, firm handshakes, but it's time for me to go somewhere else. To which they go, okay, how does this happen? So from an organization standpoint and from everything else, Moist is now losing one of their most prolific players. They're all very prolific, but they're losing one of their players. What does that entail? How long is Vatira's contract? For how much longer does it last? Does it expire anytime? Does this mean Vatira is going to be an unrestricted free agent or a restricted free agent? The difference being, is there a buyout? Does the team that he goes to need to spend a ton of money to take him from Moist? Does Moist even want to let him go? What are the circumstances? Those are the same types of things. Like if FaZe was to say, hey, First Killer wants to go elsewhere. If I'm FaZe, I go, no, First Killer, you're staying on this team, and if someone wants to buy out your contract, it's an absurd amount of money so we can rebuild the entire roster. That same kind of concept can happen with any team. So my assumption is that it is one of two things. Either A, they were signed for until like the end of the season, and Vatira's contract is now up. He's able to go elsewhere, or he is still under contract and the new team is spending a ton of money for that buyout. With that money, they can now reinvest into their roster. They can go and find a new player. They can make an enticing offer to that new player, or even pay their own buyout if they need to. So those are all the different factors that are going in. Now, we don't know the specifics of the interpersonal communication and the like conversation that's happened. Like I mentioned, I don't know if there was any animosity or any issues or any of that kind of stuff. Again, this tweet doesn't give us much detail, and that's fine. It's just saying, hey, Vatira's moving on. We're looking for a new player. That's it. And that's okay. Now, in contrast to that, and to show the other side of things, there has been a little hint that Vatira has put out. Now, I haven't played Pokemon in a very long time, but that's a lot of blue. And a wave, or a wall as one might say, is where the assumption comes from. And Vatira, even though he has not commented on this tweet in any capacity or said anything about this, has put out a conversation about a lot of blue and a wall of blue, also a wave, water, whatever. Replying to that is Exotic with the same tweet. There is a lot of assumption that this could imply, as people in chat are saying, whether this is fact or fiction, I don't know, is that this Pokemon is the favorite of the K-Corp CEO. Why for Alligator's his favorite? I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, all the more to say. But the assumption is that there is current rumors around K-Corp rebuilding their roster around Itachi, who used to be Morocco, qualified in Season 3, got DQ'd because that was not a eligible region, goes to France, does the thing he does. So Itachi, Vatira, and Exotic is looking likely to be the new starting roster for K-Corp going into the 22-23 season. Now, that is speculation. That is not 100%. That is not confirmed. But it does provide the conversation of an all-French-speaking team and a place that has a lot of potential. You have already seen what it has done for that player in the sense of Nolly. Nolly can ratio literally anybody on Twitter because of the K-Corp fan base. That is nothing new. You saw Exotic tweet out, thank you for X amount of followers, and within 30 minutes, he had another 1,000 followers on Twitter. The fan base is absurd. And I've heard a lot of things about K-Corp and the intentions that organization has and plans for the future. And it's pretty insane with what their intentions may be when it comes to other games, other situations they're trying to get into. But when it comes to Rocket League in itself, having a very strong roster that can build upon, a lot of people are kind of concerned about, because K-Corp even in itself was a team that a lot of people are like, yeah, they played really well. I think arguably K-Corp was one of the best looking teams when it came to Championship Sunday. So I think that there's a lot of potential for them to try to find a roster that will get along. And a lot of that does have to do with the origin of where they're from, what languages they're communicating, not having to deal with translation issues, any of that kind of stuff, and building upon that. And why not do it with some very, very solid players? So for that kind of concept, it makes sense. But as for the other side, Joyo and Rise, what are the options that they can pick from? And if you remember me saying just a little bit ago, no roster is truly safe other than, in my opinion, BDS. I think BDS getting Seiko, winning a world championship, they're fine. They're good. Which then makes me think about which players are available. Which players are up for grabs? Who should we consider? Someone in chat also brought up the fact, what about some of these teams that have already been announced? What about some of these teams that have been like, yep, this is our, it's Ixo, Cash, and Relating Wave or whatever. Are one of those players going to be like, oh, shoot, there's a spot open on Moist. Did I announce my team too early? Do I go back and oh no, what did I mess up? What do I do? So the crazy thing about these rumors and the way I talk about with Shift and stuff, Shift is reporting the information that they hear and that they have, and those are types of the conversations that apply, right? The difficulty is there is potential that they have reported on a rumor and then that rumor number never comes to truth or fruition, because there is potential that all of a sudden this conversation that's going down, this team that's trying out, these things are going well, all of a sudden this new opportunity with Moist appears, and they're like, oh shoot, I want to go try out for them too, just in case, see how it goes. And all of a sudden the chemistry is immaculate, and now that player goes over to them. So things can change at any given moment. It is 100% a possibility that those things can change overnight, because when new information arises, some of those players are just like, oh man, that is a really good opportunity. Should I consider that? So I think overall, if we look at the rankings for Europe in particular, if I focus on the World Championship Grand Finals and look at only the European teams for the Grand Finals, those are usually the conversations of people that are potentially going to be up for grabs. I think some notable names that you can probably take into consideration: Archie, Metsinaris. Where's Metsa going to go? You can look at players from all of Dignitas, Scrub, Jorius, Jack. You can look at any of the players from Semper, except for maybe Exotic if he ends up going to K Corp, Cassio, Shazette. You can look at Nolly. You can look at Astral. You can look at... There's so many different players and options that are up for grabs that could potentially fill this spot. So, again, while there is some players that have potentially announced what their roster going into the next season may become, did Mets already announce a roster? I don't think Mets has announced a roster. Relating Wave has. But again, there is that opportunity where while this has happened, there is another option that is available, and you would be silly not to try out just in case. Unless you're like, you know what? I'm happy with what we got. Things are good. We're confident with it. We're going to move through. Those types of circumstances are things to put into consideration. And I've said this a bunch of times. I've even tweeted out, the Moist announcement that came out today isn't even the biggest roster move that's going to get announced soon. Like, there's more to happen that haven't been talked about. They haven't been made public. So, again, I think people should keep an open mind about some of the things that are going on. And while I don't see it necessarily happening, Jan does tease a little bit to this reply. He's just like, hey, by the way, what's up? CJ is coming out of retirement. You know, like, Athena's going to play. Prep to G. Gabe is just like, wait, what? So, again, there's a lot of opportunities for someone to potentially try out and to make a pretty solid stamp on that roster to say, hey, we're going to be doing some pretty crazy stuff. So, again, the offseason is just getting started, even though the next season is right around the corner. So, I'm telling you guys who are watching this, buckle up, because some stuff has to become solidified soon. And I'm looking forward to it. If you guys want to know exactly how soon, we'll have a video talking about the next season of RLCS coming out in just a bit. Some things that I have been in the works of. The brain has been kind of...
Lawler.
Yes, Lawler. Yes, that's the channel you're watching right now. Please subscribe. Thanks for the 6 months resub. But I think if you guys are kind of curious about why these moves are being announced and why things are happening, we'll have a conversation coming soon. So make sure you guys hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because I am excited to talk to you about where my brain and what my theory crafting is getting to, about when this next season is going to start. So looking forward to talking with you guys in the future. But yeah, the big conversation piece, Joyo and Rise looking for a new player. Who is it going to be? Maybe another person from the same region, potentially. We'll have to wait and see. But that's going to do it for today's video. A lot of rumors, a lot of roster things happening in the near future. I'll also be talking about more roster stuff coming up here soon, because there's a whole lot more to come. But I don't know, if Yummy Cheeseman keeps leaking roster stuff, then I got to keep making videos. Either way, that's going to do it for today. Like, subscribe, notifications. You guys know what to do. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace.